What's up, YouTube? Quick video. It's been almost a week now from the shocking loss of Anthony Joshua to Andy Ruiz. I did think before the fight that Andy Ruiz wasn't going to be as much of a pushover as everyone was saying, and that he was going to cause Joshua trouble at some stage during the fight, but I did think Joshua would ultimately win. And I also felt during the fight when he got knocked down in the third, like he luckily escaped the third round. But I did think when Ruiz didn't jump on him in the fourth and the fifth, I thought his fitness would prevail. He'd come back and he'd win like he did against Klitschko. And again, I was wrong. So it's definitely exciting for the heavyweight division, and it's opened up a whole load of different permutations that what can happen. Let me know what you think yourselves. But yeah, so the way it stands at the moment is by the end of the year, Ruiz and Joshua are going to fight a rematch. That's been confirmed by Eddie Hearn, and that's at the end of the year, and they're looking to have it in the UK. That's a clause in the contract, so that was always going to be the case. And you know, some people are saying, some commentators, some ex-boxers, some current boxers are saying he shouldn't fight Ruiz straight away. Some people might even point to the likes of David Price, who was an up-and-coming heavyweight, and then he lost by stunning fashion, and he came back and immediately rematched his opponent, but again lost again to his opponent Thompson. So yeah, but I don't think that's the same situation with Joshua. Joshua is much more progressed than somebody like David Price was. You know, obviously he would have to, even if they didn't think it was a good idea or he didn't feel it was a good time and he needed a few tune-up fights, still not really sensible to avoid the immediate rematch. One, because who knows what would happen if Ruiz fought, you know, somebody like Fury or Wilder in the interim, and that could be very well possible because Ruiz and Wilder are with the same manager, Al Heyman. We'll come back to that point. And also, there's a power play, so with all the belts being outside of the zone match room, it's gonna really take a lot of power away from them. Anthony Joshua is the poster boy for the zone. They've got some huge names, obviously, like Canelo and Golovkin as well. But Anthony Joshua being the heavyweight unified champion, all but one belt, up until that point, he is the golden goose. So they, you know, if they lost all the heavyweight titles, then, you know, it'd be disastrous for their platform. Maybe not in the long run, but definitely in the short term. So it's not something that was ever going to happen. There was always going to be a rematch against Ruiz straight away. There's just no alternative, you know. A lot of pressure being put on Joshua for that rematch as well, that if he loses, where is he? You know, you got a point, you know, people saying it's disastrous that he even lost. I don't think so. The guy is close to a billionaire, if not already. You know, he's definitely hundreds of millions in the bank at this stage, and, you know, he's not a financial worry, and career wise he's been perfect up until this point. You know, it's heavyweight boxing, one punch can change everything. But yeah, you look at people like Wladimir Klitschko ruled the heavyweight division for 10 years. Earlier on in his career, he did lose by stunning upsets and knockouts a couple of times, and he recovered and came back and dominated for 10 years as basically an unstoppable force until Tyson Fury, of course, beat him. And then, of course, there's Lennox Lewis as well. He had a few shock upsets. People pointing back to Buster Douglas against Mike Tyson. That one, you know, maybe that's. I don't think it's the same as that, you know, because Mike Tyson was renowned for not really training. He had his eye off the ball regularly throughout his career. He did a lot of drugs and didn't really train too hard. He relied on his punch. Obviously, he's a great boxer as well, but You know, he got distracted quite easily. Obviously, an icon. But after his Buster Douglas, did he really come back to the top? Not really, like Lennox Lewis or Wladimir Klitschko, if you ask me. So, you know, so what happens if the rematch, when the rematch happens? Well, obviously, there's the normal permutation that Anthony Joshua can come back and beat Ruiz, and then, you know, it's put down as a, you know, a slip, you know, in his career, and that's it. It's sorted, and he's back on track, and the big fights probably are easier to make than they are at the moment. Still not going to be easy, but you know, it takes his invincibility to shine off him. So, you know, people like Fury and Wilder could be getting 50-50, which appears to have been the stumbling block the whole time. And then it's just a matter of whether or not the networks, ESPN, the Zone, Matchroom, Sky Sports, and HBO can work together, you know, or Showtime can work together. So yeah, so that's the situation. If Joshua wins, it's all back on track with the three possibly meeting in the future. What happens if Ruiz wins? Well, that can, some people can see that as a good thing, or they can see it as a bad thing for boxing overall. The good thing is if Ruiz fights and wins, then obviously he has all the belts, and he is with Al Heyman now. If people don't know who Al Heyman is, Al Heyman is a force in the background, promoter, manager. You know, he's really just a juggernaut in boxing. You wouldn't, you know, don't be worried if you haven't heard of him, because he does like to be in the background. He doesn't like to, you know, you wouldn't see many photos of him on the line. He doesn't go to many events, but he was a driving force behind Floyd Mayweather throughout his career, and he basically is a main, up until maybe the last year, he was the main driving force in boxing. So he had huge names, but Wilder is with him and Ruiz is with him. So if Ruiz wins again, and all the belts are on the line against Joshua, and we'll talk about that point in a second, then Ruiz and Wilder would be the obvious next fight. And I think, you know, it doesn't really matter to Al Heyman who wins that, Ruiz or Wilder, because he basically owns both those boxers, pays them very well, has them signed up, and whoever wins that then would be, you know, the undisputed heavyweight champion and all the belts. Now again, you might think that's great, there's one champion. From the downside, then, you know, are we going to see Wilder or Ruiz? Let's say Wilder wins, just by way of making it easier in the conversation. Will we see Wilder fight Fury, or will we see Wilder fight Joshua? I don't think so, because why would one promoter, one manager, one juggernaut in boxing, again I'm talking about Al Heyman here, not the actual boxers, why would he risk all the belts going outside? So the only way you'd see a fight like Fury or Joshua or whoever else is up there at that time would be if they were mandatory, and that's only if, you know, they'd have to be mandatory with one of the boxing bodies like WBO, WBA, WBC or IBF. So, you know, again, there's a lot of time to work your way up there, and then in between mandatories you're allowed voluntaries. So I can only see Al Heyman allowing voluntaries with boxers he already has signed up or can sign up, and just in case the unthinkable happens and whoever, Wilder, let's say, loses to this voluntary defense fighter, all the belts will stay with Al Heyman. So it's a power play basically between the big promoters, the big stations. They all want to have the power, you know, basically. So again, I know the rematch with Wilder and Fury is penciled in for the start of next year, but if Ruiz won at the end of the year, I can see that one being pushed back, because again, and maybe never happening as a voluntary fight. Also, there's another permutation that the IBF they have a reputation, and it's happened to Tyson Fury when he won against Klitschko. There was a clause in the contract that he had to rematch Klitschko straight away, but he was stripped straight away of the IBF title within a couple of weeks, and they let two fighters, one of them being Charles Martin, fight for the IBF, which obviously Joshua ended up fighting after Charles Martin won the IBF, the vacant IBF belt. So that could be a possibility. The IBF would strip, so that belt wouldn't be on the line for the Ruiz Joshua rematch. And then if that was the case, you'd have somebody, again, maybe like Tyson Fury and Pulev fighting for the vacant IBF title. Again, that would postpone the Wilder Fury rematch in the beginning of the next year. So that would mean that if, and it's all ifs and buts here, but if Tyson Fury won that, for example, he would have the IBF, Wilder would have the WBC, and then if Joshua won, he would have WBA and WBO and IBO as well, and that's my lower down belt. So yeah, it's a lot of ifs and maybes and buts, but it's certainly exciting to see what happens. It's not foregone conclusion like when Klitschko, and I'm not one of those people that says Klitschko was boring for boxing and bad for boxing. I think he was great for boxing. Him and his brother, arguably his brother Vitaly was even better than him. Arguably never even really lost. He lost to Lennox Lewis, but that was because of injury, and I had him slightly ahead of Lennox Lewis in that fight. Most people had Lennox Lewis ahead in that fight. But yeah, no, it's definitely exciting times for heavyweight boxing, and we'll see what happens in the very near future. We don't have to wait too long to find out all these things. Of course, Tyson Fury fighting next out of the four now, big heavyweights. He is fighting later on this month against Schwartz. Again, not an easy fight, but we'll talk about that later. So anyway, if you like the video, give it a like there. I'd love to have you subscribe. Papa needs a new pair of shoes. And yeah, just leave a comment or whatever. Okay, thanks YouTube. See you later. Good luck.
Hello world, goodbye world.